Hello there, Booktube. You should feel honoured right now because I switched off the AC to make this video. As you know, the temperature has been skyrocketing pretty much everywhere on Earth. What the hell was that noise? Oh, right, okay, so as soon as I press record, an airplane decides to go past. Yeah, that makes sense. That's fitting. I only switched off the AC so it wouldn't interfere, there wouldn't be a load of background noise. No, by all means, you fly your planes right across the house. You should be honoured because the heat is still quite a lot, and the AC is off right now. It will not be staying off. I'm going to make this video, and then I'm switching it straight back on again. So, what is this video? Well, today is the 20th of July, 2022. And that means it has been exactly 2 years since I made my first Booktube video. And for my 2-year Booktube anniversary, I thought it would be a good idea to go back over my channel and have a little think about it. I'm going to go back to the Booktube Newbie tag, which was created by Brenda C back in 2014. Though Brenda C does not appear to be making videos anymore. If you actually go back to the original video, it's no longer there. I don't know if the channel's still there because I can't find a channel link. So yeah, the original creator doesn't appear to be easily found. But the Booktube Newbie tag is a big thing. It's been going for a while, and it was one of the first videos I made. But I'm going to go back, and with 2 years of experience with Booktube, 2 years of making videos and being part of the community, maybe my answers will have changed. So this is the Booktube Newbie tag revisited as part of my 2-year anniversary. So question number 1. Why did you start this channel? Well, as I said in my original video, which was not brilliantly put together and had terrible audio, I believe. I also didn't show my face in those early videos, but not that you need to see my beautiful visage, but you can. Why did I start this channel? Well, back then, I said the same thing I'm going to say now. I started this channel years and years before I even knew what Booktube was, in order to be part of the atheist and skeptic community and argue with creationists such as Jesus Freak 777 and Venom Fang X. We all had silly names back then. My name was Tornado Creator, which is a stupid username. I don't know why I came up with it. It is one of the worst usernames I could have picked, but it's what I picked and I'm stuck with it now. I've been using it for so many years that is my name now. Well done. Well done. You got to name yourself and you picked a stupid name. If only I could have gone back, shook teenage me and said, right, when you pick your username, pick something cool sounding, pick something interesting, or hell, just use your real name. Anyway, so I started that in order to join the skeptic community. The skeptic community was decent enough. It worked out for a while. There's very few of them left anymore. There's still a few people making like skeptic, religious debunking videos like Aaron Ra, but they've largely fallen by the wayside now. There's only so many times you can debunk creationist nonsense before you get bored of it because they just keep saying the same arguments over and over again. Like, once you've heard the ontological argument for the 150th time, you really don't feel like disputing it anymore. You just want to stop and do something else, anything else. There's a few people that still make videos, though a lot of them have moved on. The Amazing Atheist was one of the biggest... Shut up, phone! The Amazing Atheist was one of the biggest channels at the time, and he's made a lot of videos. He went on to make political videos. He went on to make like anti-feminism videos, especially when like militant feminism was getting way out of hand. He made a few anti-woke videos, but now he seems to have gone the other way. It's like he's trying to correct because his audience was becoming more right-wing than he was comfortable with, so he started correcting himself. That's one of the only big channels I can think of that's still part of that old part of YouTube. 2. What are some fun and unique things you can bring to Booktube? Well, I wasn't sure what to say back when I did this the first time, but I would say now the fun and unique thing I bring to Booktube is a willingness to tell Booktube what I think. A willingness to actually be honest and say, no, this is my opinion, and I won't be shouted down because I'm not, left-wing and progressive enough for you. A lot of people in the comments, a lot of people on my server, a lot of people in my emails have thanked me for being cavalier with my opinions, for just being willing to say what I think and voice the lack of political diversity on Booktube. So the fun and unique thing I bring to Booktube is an anchor point for disenfranchised people to feel like they actually have a voice. I'm going to voice my opinions, and you can't cancel me. I don't care. I don't have a big viewership. I don't care what the average lefty progressive thinks. I'm already banned from all of your fucking Discord channels, so who cares what you guys think? Right? The people I care about is my community. Like, wider Booktube? Fuck off. You're not part of my community. My section of Booktube, this little bit, that's the bit that I care about, and we're already expanding out to other things. We talk about role-playing games, we talk about video games, we talk about geek culture in general, we have loads of political and philosophical debates. We've got a nice little community going on, and we'll venture into the decent parts of Booktube where people are actually reasonable and listen and are willing to be friendly even when they disagree. But yeah, I'm not gonna pander to the parts of Booktube that want to run YouTube like some kind of fascist groupthink. Maybe you guys should read things like 1984, Brave New World. Rethink the way you're doing things. You're supposed to be literature fans. 3. What are you most excited for about this new channel? Well, it's not a new channel, but what I'm most excited for is the community. As I alluded to in the last answer, this small community is actually really good. Like, I've only got about 1,200 subscribers at the moment, which I say only. 1,200's a lot of people. And yes, most of them don't watch. Most of those are hangover subs from when I did other stuff, when I was talking about politics and religion, when I was talking about video games from years ago. Some of those have been hanging around for a good long while, I think. But even then, in the last couple of months, I've gained about 100 subs. Which doesn't sound like many until you realise that's 2 full busloads of people. If 2 full busloads of people showed up at your door, interested with what you had to say, you'd feel pretty damn popular, wouldn't you? So, I feel pretty damn popular. Because even if I only get 50 to 100 views per video, those are 50 to 100 people who care what I have to say. And that's pretty damn cool. So I'm excited for that. I'm excited for the community. The community that we've got on Gilded is really cool. It's only about a dozen people who talk regular, and maybe another dozen or so that talk semi-regular. So maybe 30 people total. And that might not sound like much, but it's a great community, and it's a community that's stood the test of time. We've got people there who play D&D games regularly. We're starting up a GURPS game, which is pretty cool. We've got a book club. We've got people who like to talk about video games. There's the Dark Souls debate has been going on for literally years at this point. We've got people who have been a member of this community now for about 5-6 years. Back when it was a Facebook group, before I even started BookTube. Back when it was a Facebook gaming group, and then it expanded. And it's still the same community. What started as a gaming group has expanded to encompass role players and BookTube. And that's the thing. I don't think of me as a BookTuber. I think of me as a part of my community. And BookTube is just an aspect of what I do. So that's what I like about BookTube. It's bringing new people into my community. But that community already existed. And some of the oldest members have been there for at least 5 years now. those members are still going to be there, even if I stopped making Booktube content. If I never picked up another book ever, they'd still be there to discuss politics, video games, geeky TV shows. We'd still get by. The Booktube is just a nice additional element. So that's what I'm excited to get out of it, that community, because online friends are friends. They're real, genuine friends. When you've known people for years, when you spend 1 day a week playing a D&D game with people for over a year, it doesn't matter that they're on the internet. Your real life friends are not really real life friends. They're offline friends. Calling them real life friends dilutes and devalues the friends you make online. And if COVID taught us anything, it's that you can have real friendships, real relationships, even if you're on the other side of the planet and never see people. My sister's lived abroad for years now. I talk to her more now than I did when we lived in the same house. I speak to her on the phone for hours at a time, multiple times a week. Real friendships can be made online, and it's not a good thing to devalue them. They're worthwhile, and we shouldn't undervalue those things. So what I'm most excited about from this channel is building that community, finding more people who want to take part. And if you do want to take part, come and join us. Join us in Gilded. It's like Discord, only without the stupid censorship and hate speech rules, where if you disagree with what the Discord moderators have said they consider hate speech, which is basically any conservative viewpoint, you get banned. That's not going to fly on my community. We'll discuss whatever the hell we like, thank you very much. But Gilded works well. It also operates as an alternative to something like Patreon. If you buy Gilded Gold, which only costs a couple of dollars, I get that money. It doesn't go to Gilded. They take a small fee off the top, a very small amount, a couple of pennies basically. But most of that comes to me. It's no more than what Patreon would take. So it's a good way of supporting my channel, as well as supporting the community. And you get the whole Discord experience, as well as forums as well. It's got an old-style message board built in, so you can have forum discussions, which is really cool. Gilded's way better than Discord. It's a shame it's not more well known. Anyway, I've plugged the Gilded community. That's what I want to get out of it. More community members, more actual friends. I'd rather have 24 friends than 20,000 subscribers. I'd rather be someone that people know and like than a product for you to consume. Although, if I can be both, I'll be both. Because if I had 20,000 subscribers, I could probably make some money off it then. Anyway, next question. Why do you love reading? I actually don't. I don't love reading. I love stories. I love fiction. Particularly sci-fi and fantasy fiction. Although that's changing a little, which I'll come to later because there's another question on that later down the line. But I don't love reading. I love engaging with fiction. And if it's a film or a video game or a TV show, I will engage with it that way. Books have provided me with a new way to engage. I've noticed that books I consume differently. I never do this with TV shows or with films, where I can watch a scene and then switch it off and think about it for 3 hours and then come back and watch another scene. I'd never dream of doing that. I do it with books all the time. I'll read one chapter and I'll put the book down, I'll go and do something else, and then I'll come back and read another chapter or two, and then put it down and do something else. I can only do that with books. Books allow you to engage with a narrative in ways that are completely different from film and TV. You decide the pacing, and you can decide how you relate to the different characters in a way that you simply can't with passive media, because books require you to actively read, not just sit and have it piped into you. It's why I don't get audiobooks. Audiobooks don't appeal to me, because an audiobook is a film without the pictures. Whereas when I'm reading a book, I get to decide exactly where I stop. I get to decide if I want to speed my way through this scene. If I'm reading through this scene, it's getting exciting and I want the pacing to go up, I read faster. And I do that. I do read faster when the pace wants to pick up. Sometimes I'll slow down and I'll slowly read each scene. I'll stop at the end of sentences, at the end of paragraphs. I'll wait for a few seconds. I'll absorb the thoughts and feelings. Sometimes an emotional scene will happen. A character might have a realization, a breakdown. They might start crying, or they might be in grief or something like that. I will stop. I'll put the book down and I'll just think for a minute. You wouldn't do that with a film or TV show. If you were watching a film or a TV show with someone and they regularly paused it just so they could stare off into the distance and think about what just happened to that character, you'd beat their head in. It's like, put the bloody film back on, I was watching that. But with a book, I feel the need to have that distance, to have that moment of contemplation. I've never felt that with films or TV before. A good example of this is The Expanse. I was trying to both read the books and watch the TV show, and I ended up giving up on the TV show because I felt it was ruining the books for me. Even though the TV show's really good, I preferred reading the books, which meant that because watching the TV show was devaluing the book for me, it was making the book less exciting because I was already familiar with what was going to happen. I stopped watching the show after 3 episodes. I wanted to read the book without the spoilers of the show. So I read the books instead. And I'm really glad I did. I would likely have loved the TV show, but I loved the books more. And that's something I would never have expected. So yeah, I don't love reading, but I do love certain books. I don't think reading itself is something that I love, though I do think give it a little bit more time, because I've spotted what makes reading special compared to TV and film. I think that given time, I will end up loving reading. At the moment, reading is something that I have to tell myself to do. I have to go, right, okay, you want to get through these books, pick up a book now and spend a couple of hours reading. Because if you don't, you won't read today, and you'll have regretted that you haven't read anything. Whereas I will casually switch on the TV and watch for hours without thinking. I don't casually pick up books and read without thinking. I would like to get to that level, because while I don't do that, when I've finished reading, I love having read. When I finish reading for 2 hours, I always feel great afterwards. But it's starting that process. It's getting to the point where I pick up the book by rote. That I still haven't developed yet. So I don't love reading. I love having read. I think in a year's time, if I do this in 2023, I will be able to answer this with, yes, I love reading. I'm hoping I will. I just need to get that habit ingrained. 5. What book or series got you into reading? Probably the famous 5 series by Enid Blyton is what got me into reading as a kid. That was a great series for a kid. I also read Roald Dahl, but I think that may have been a little bit later. I'm not sure. But Enid Blyton and Roald Dahl were the authors that I read plenty of when I was a kid. Got me back into reading, though, that would be, interestingly enough, Jim Butcher's Dresden Files, even though I've only read 2, and I hated book 2. Reading the first book got me back into the act of reading regularly. And once I finished the first Dresden Files, I moved on to reading a few other books, and I eventually ended up picking up The Way of Kings, the first Stormlight Archives book. And that, because that's such a big book, that consumed weeks of my life. By the time I'd finished that, I was well entrenched in the Booktube community, the Booktube idea. So that's probably what got me into reading as an adult. I'd say Dresden Files, even though it's not even a series I think about all that often. I did read a little bit before Booktube. I would read the odd Stephen King now and then. I would occasionally go back and read books that I remember reading as a teenager. I did read a Game of Thrones. That was pretty much it, though. If it wasn't A Song of Ice and Fire or a Stephen King book, I basically didn't read it. So those ones I can't give the credit for getting me back into reading, because they only really reinforced themselves. Question 6. What question would you ask your favourite booktubers? Well, my favourite booktubers would probably be Murphy Napier and Steve Donahue. And I don't have much in the way of questions for them right now. I've communicated with them both to a greater or lesser extent. I've left comments on their videos. They've commented back to me. I know Steve Donahue has commented on my channel. I know that Murphy at one point was watching my videos because I saw her appear in my comment section at least once. So I know that they watch, and I watch them, which is a little bit weird. It's strange knowing that people that you watch on the internet are watching you. But it shouldn't be weird, but it is. It is a bit. The other booktubers out there, my question to them would be: do you think it was a good thing that you banned me so damn quickly from your Discords and your Twitter conversations and deleted my comments off your comment section? Do you think that's actually helped your community? Because one of the things that I've found is that a lot of communities like Media Death Cult, like Library of Alexandria and the Shelf Space groups, like Daniel Green's channel, a lot of those, they have their own Discords, they have their own Facebook groups and things like that. They communicate on Twitter, and they obviously have the comment section. I was banned from all of them very quickly. Some of them I was banned in the space of hours. Some for literally doing nothing. I was banned from Media Death Cult for saying that Star Wars wasn't sci-fi. Because I said that it's a fantasy story. It's about knights with magic swords fighting an evil sorcerer in a doom fortress. That's a fantasy story. That's pulp fantasy. It just happens to happen in space. That doesn't make it not fantasy. It even happens in a galaxy a long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Like that's a fantasy opening if ever there was one. So yeah, that was a silly reason for me to be banned. But it feels like those communities are only interested in being an echo chamber. Shelf Space banned me for literally nothing. I joined, I asked them about their readathon, I had a casual conversation for about 20 minutes. I didn't say anything controversial, I didn't even give an opinion. I was just introducing, saying hi, asking what people were reading, just general light conversation. 20 minutes in, I was banned. For no reason at all. So, the Shelf Space community bans people preemptively for having opinions that they don't like, without telling them, even when you haven't broken their community rules. That gives you an idea of what Booktube is like. The Booktube community, the wider Booktube community, is extremely hostile and toxic, and fuck you, you're not welcome on my site either. Like, I don't care. Like, that part of Booktube, you're all drones and fascists, and I don't care what you think. The difference is, if you do join my site, if you join my Gilded server, I won't ban you. You're not welcome, but you can join if you want. We'll allow you to join, and we will allow you to take part in the community. And if you actually act like a member of the community and not an arsehole, then you'll be welcomed and you'll be allowed to stay. Because we don't ban people for having just an opinion we don't like, or for just showing up. That's the kind of thing that I find really, really distressing about Booktube. There are nice sections of Booktube, like I say. There are nice sections of Booktube, and the community that I've managed to build is fantastic. I would never give that up. Right? The community that I've got is 2-3 dozen people who I genuinely get along well with, and I'd rather have them than thousands of subscribers. It's better. It's just better. But yeah, the wider Booktube community is toxic, it's authoritarian, and I don't respect it. I'm not a booktuber. I'm just a person making videos. Booktube is one of the many, many things that I do. So that's why I said leaving Booktube in one of my recent videos. I did not want to identify as a booktuber. I want to identify as a person who makes some booktube videos. Because booktubers are not nice people, generally. Unless you're in that quiet section of booktube where people make vlog videos that barely get more than a few hundred views. That section of booktube, that's quite welcoming and quite nice. Sadly, they don't read the same kind of books that I like to read, but those are the breaks. Anyway, next question. Question 7. What challenges do you think starting a booktube channel will be the hardest to overcome? For me, it's always going to be my health. It's always going to be whether or not I am able to make videos reliably. My chronic fatigue and chronic pain, my various different issues with my disability, they will get in the way. And when they do, I'm not going to be able to make videos reliably. What I need to do is I need to make sure that I accommodate for this. I've been making videos very regularly the last few days. What I actually did is record loads in one day, and I've been editing day by day, but it means I've almost become a daily uploader. I didn't upload yesterday, but that was because it was so damn hot that I couldn't have the air conditioner off long enough to edit the video, because it takes a couple of hours to edit the video. But I can't do it with the air conditioner on, because then there's a constant whirring, so I can't hear the background noise that I'm trying to filter out. So yeah, I didn't edit and upload yesterday, but I will be uploading that video, that last video from the last batch today, along with this video. So there'll be 2 videos going up today, hopefully. That's the plan. I want to be able to upload regularly. I reckon I could upload daily. I could do this quite comfortably if I just make sure that I get into the habit of actually recording and editing the videos. If I build templates into my editing, I should be able to do the editing in about an hour. The rendering will still take 2 hours plus, but I can just set that and leave it. So that's the plan. Hopefully I'll be able to overcome the issues of my health and the time investment it takes to make the videos. If I can do that, then I don't think there'll be much of a challenge. I think it'll be fine. Question 8. When did you start reading? Well, I started reading when I was old enough to open a book, honestly. I read very, very early, and I read often. My mum was very encouraging. She loved to read. My dad didn't care much for books, but he wasn't discouraging. But my mum was very encouraging because she loved to read, and she would read to me, and then she would encourage me to read either to her or alone. And even as a young child, I would sit for hours and read. I'm shocked I didn't do it more as an adult. It was such a big part of my childhood that I am so shocked that I abandoned it so quickly, and I put that down to the terrible way that the education system is built, because as an adult I associated reading with work, with studying. I was so disenfranchised with reading that in my early 20s I was the kind of guy who would say things like, why would I want to read the book when I can watch the TV show or the film? I can watch the film in 2 hours, why would I want to spend 3 days reading the book? What a waste of time. I would say things like that because the book was something that I would avoid instinctively. Books were not entertainment for me in my 20s. Books were something that I had to read because I was doing a STEM degree and I was sick of ever having to open them. They were vehicles to teach me inefficiently stuff I needed to learn, and they cost 3 times as much as they needed to. Frankly, modern students have it much easier. They often don't need to be reading books. They can use online lecture courses and documentaries and various different web shows and podcasts that can teach them everything they need to know without opening a book once. Those would be much, much better resources, but I didn't have them when I was at uni. The internet was still fairly young, and that kind of media was not widespread. So that was 8. When did you start reading? When did I start reading again on the regular? That would be 2 years ago when I started Booktube. I was disenfranchised at the beginning of 2020 with video games because all of the big AAA games coming out that year were shit. And I wanted another hobby, and lockdown had happened, so I couldn't leave the house. I found Booktube just by chance. I was watching Shadiversity, Shad Brooks wrote a book. His book was reviewed by Daniel Green, and Daniel Green did a crossover with Murphy Napier, and I ended up watching Murphy's channel, and I really enjoyed her content. So I would watch Murphy's channel, she'd recommend books, I would go out and buy those books. I read very few of them, I bought way too many books. But it was good, it was a nice experience, and it spurred me on to start reading regularly. Like, watching Murphy's channel was what started me wanting to read, and then I found more channels on Booktube, and my experience with Booktube grew, and it spurred me on to read even more. So if it wasn't for Booktube, I would not be reading on the regular. So, question 9. Where do you read? I tend to read on the leather sofa over there. It's more of a leather love seat than a full sofa. It's not quite a two-seater sofa. It's smaller than the average two-seater. But me being the absolute giant I am 6'6" and over 400 pounds, which, yes, that is huge, and I do need to lose weight. I'm aware of that. But even if I wasn't a big fat guy, even if I dropped 100 pounds, I would still be 6'6" and have a 54-inch chest and God knows what inch waist. Like, I am a big, broad guy. I am actually bigger than Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm both taller and broader shouldered than him. I'm not nowhere near as muscular, obviously. I've got one hell of a belly, though. That I've definitely beaten him on. But yeah, I'm a big guy, so a love seat actually just feels like a huge armchair for me. It's really comfy. I can lean in at one side, I can change position, and I can sit and read for hours in that sofa chair situation. So that's where I like to read. 10. What kind of books do you like to read? Well, this is interesting because when I first did this, I didn't know what kind of books I like to read. I hadn't discovered enough. So I went in thinking I probably enjoy fantasy and sci-fi because I enjoy fantasy and sci-fi video games and tabletop role-playing. I liked things like D&D, I liked cyberpunk, I liked space operas, things like that. And that has rung true. I do like those things. I read a fair bit of Stephen King. Stephen King was the one author I would still read, even when I wasn't much of a reader. And I read A Game of Thrones, which I enjoyed. I like the Song of Ice and Fire series. It's one of the few book series that I actually did read during my drought of reading. So I assumed that I liked those kinds of things, but actually I've realised that what I genuinely like, the thing that really pulls me in, is detective mysteries. That's what I actually like. If you think about it, A Game of Thrones is a detective mystery in a fantasy world. Leviathan Wakes is a detective mystery in a space opera. Old-style detective mystery stories with a sci-fi fantasy backdrop is what I really like. Excuse me. So it turns out that, yeah, mystery thrillers is my preferred genre. That's actually the thing that I find most appealing. I like sci-fi and I like fantasy, but mystery thrillers is my go-to genre, and that I would never have expected. So yeah, that's fun to know. And the final question, 11. What does your book collection look like? And this one I'm going to leave without answering, because one of my upcoming videos is going to be a bookshelf tour. It's been a while since I've done it, and I have a wildly different collection now. I have a fair few leatherbounds. I have quite a few collectibles, like collector's editions, Folio Society editions, a couple of others. I've got an Eton Press leatherbound, things like that. So I've got a nice collection now, and I kind of want to show it off. So I'm going to do a proper bookshelf tour, and I'm also going to include my wish list of books. Not as in a link to a wish list of books you can buy, but like a top 5 or a top 10 books I want to buy. Because one of the things I've been doing is put myself in a book buying ban. When I started Booktube, I went a bit nuts, and in the first 6 months I bought well over 200 books, possibly closing in on 300. At this point, I think I'm somewhere around the 350 books mark. And I haven't read half of them. Yeah, sorry about that. I had a phone call. So yeah, as I was saying, I have somewhere in the region of about 350 books, and I have not read half of them. And I've had to put myself in a book buying ban because I was going ridiculous. I was going out of my mind trying to get every book in this bizarre case of FOMO, this fear of missing out. Whenever a new series of books was spoken about, I wanted to be a part of it. People would talk about the First Law trilogy, and I'd want to be a part of it. They'd talk about the Gentleman Bastard series, and I'd want to be a part of that. They'd talk about the books of Robin Hobb, and I'd want to be a part of that. The thing is, all of these series, they're multi-book series. I would need to be reading dozens and dozens of books to be able to take part in these conversations, and I've simply not read these books. You can't join a community and then suddenly go, right, okay, I'm gonna read 3 million words worth of fantasy and sci-fi in order to catch up. You've got to accept that you need to start somewhere. So for me, I've got the series that people spoke about, as well as a few that I bought on a whim. I've got a mixture of sci-fi, fantasy, a little bit of horror, and a few classics. I've got a few contemporary books as well, not many, but I've got a few. And that's enough of a collection that I'm just going to focus on what I've got. Once I've read them, then I'll consider buying more. But I've got about enough books now that if I read them at the rate that I am currently reading, it will take me about 5 to 6 years to finish every book I own. There's that many, and I've got big books here. I've got giant things. I've got the entirety of series, like the entire Expanse series, which is 9 books. All of them are fairly big. I've got all the books of Robin Hobb to read. Looking over there, I've got huge books. I've got the Rift War saga. I've got Black Prism and Blinding Knife, which is the Lightbringer series, which are giant books. I've got Dune. I've got Lord of the Rings. I've got Book of the New Sun. I've got all of these different books everywhere, and that's not even counting the classics. I've got giant classics that I can read. Things like Moby Dick and Middlemarch and The Count of Monte Cristo. These are all huge books. They're not small. Like, if I want to sit and read things like War and Peace and Crime and Punishment or Les Miserables, these are giant, massive doorstops of a book. I've got the entire collection of Jane Austen. I've got all of I haven't got all, but I've got a good collection of Charles Dickens. I have an absolutely huge collection of Stephen King books, and I still have only read about half of them. The amount of books that I've got is so many that I had to institute a little bit of a ban. But what it means is that now I've got all these paperbacks, and I bought pretty much everything in either mass market or trade paperback, that when I find books I love, I can then invest in collector's editions, leather bounds, cloth bounds, special editions, that kind of stuff. So I'm building up a curated list of really nice volumes that represent the kind of stuff I want to read. That's nice. That's enjoyable. So there is a positive to it in the end. But other than that, I will show my book collection, but I want to do it in a separate video. I want to go back over what I've got here and do a proper bookshelf tour. So that'll be available fairly soon. I'm going to post this video tonight, and hopefully I'll have enough time to record some new stuff, because I've got other videos I want to do, but I'm going to cut it here because I have been rambling along now for well over 45 minutes, and I like to keep my videos at least under the 1 hour mark, because I think that if I go over the 1 hour mark, that is just showing a sense of narcissism that people want to sit there for more than an hour listening to my face. No one wants to do that. So I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for listening, and yeah, this was the Booktube Newbie tag revisited. Hopefully it was entertaining, and here's to another 2 years of making bookish content on YouTube and rattling the cage of Booktube. See you then. Bye.